Digital SLRs are arguably the most versatile type of camera and are therefore the best choice for creative photography. As you know, there are dozens of different SLR models available, with new ones coming out every month. And I'm going to assume that you already have a digital SLR because this DVD isn't designed to be a buyer's guide, and I'm not going to tell you which camera to go out and buy. I can assure you that whichever digital SLR you own, it's good enough for taking great photos if you know how to use it. So when you strip away all the bells and whistles, all digital SLRs function pretty much the same way. Some models have image stabilization, dust removal systems, higher resolution, extra rugged construction for professional use, or even special menus for editing your pictures in the camera. But so what? Those features might be nice to have, but they don't have anything to do with the basics of good photography. And that's what we're here to learn about today. Everything we'll talk about in this DVD can be put into practice with any digital SLR, from the least expensive model to the top-of-the-line pro camera. So first of all, let's start by taking a look at why serious photographers choose to use SLRs in the first place. What makes them superior to digital point-and-shoot cameras? SLRs have high-quality viewfinders that show the scene through the same lens that takes the picture. So what you see is what you get. This makes it much easier to focus, check your exposure settings, follow action, and fine-tune your composition. SLRs have interchangeable lenses so that you can choose the right lens for each photo situation. You can pick from zooms, wide angles, telephotos, and even macro lenses. SLRs power up quickly so you won't miss a shot waiting for the camera to get ready. No shutter lag. SLRs respond instantly when you press the shutter button. There's no frustrating delay like you get with point-and-shoot cameras. SLRs can take several photos per second, one right after the other, almost as fast as you can press the shutter button. SLRs have better autofocus systems and precise manual focus when you want it. SLRs have superior picture quality. Even with the exact same megapixel resolution, an image taken with a digital SLR will look noticeably better than one taken with a compact digital camera, because SLRs have much bigger image sensors and better image processing circuitry. SLRs provide easy access to important controls via dedicated buttons, switches, and knobs on the camera body. And most importantly, with a digital SLR, you have complete creative control over every photo you take, so you don't have to rely on the camera to make choices for you. Even though today's cameras have sophisticated automatic settings, taking great photos usually requires turning some of these features off, so you can control things like shutter speed, focus, depth of field, and white balance manually. Personally, I don't want a machine to be making the creative decisions for me, because that takes all the fun out of photography. Now, there are certain settings and controls that can be found on all SLRs, regardless of the model or brand. Sometimes they might be labeled differently or located someplace else on the camera body, but as far as we're concerned in this workshop, all SLRs are very similar. Throughout the rest of this DVD, we're going to be focusing on general photographic concepts and techniques that apply to all cameras, rather than specific buttons or menu settings on your camera. So before we go any further, you need to familiarize yourself with the following functions on your camera. How to change the shutter speed. How to change the aperture or f-stop of the lens. How to change the metering mode. How to change the autofocus mode, how to select the best white balance setting, and how to change the exposure mode. Now, don't worry if you don't understand yet what these settings do. That's what you'll learn during this DVD. All I want you to find out right now is how to change them on your camera. If you need to pause the DVD and dig out your camera's owner's manual, go right ahead. Because there are so many different models of cameras on the market, it would be impossible for me to tell you exactly how to find these controls on your camera. An even better resource than the manufacturer's hard-to-understand manual is to get one of our camera-specific DVDs or books. There are a number of magic lantern guides available that will teach you everything you need to know about the most popular models of digital SLRs. Chances are good that we've got a book and/or DVD created just for your camera that would make a great companion to this workshop. So these are the 6 most important controls you'll need to understand, and I'm going to assume that you already know how to change these settings on your camera. Likewise, you should already be familiar with how to turn the camera on, insert and eject memory cards, change lenses, mount the camera on a tripod, charge the batteries, and other basic functions like that. SLR stands for single lens reflex. And as I said, the viewfinder looks right through the same lens that is used to take the photo, so you can see exactly what you're framing. That's where the single lens part of the name comes from. What you see is what you get. Now, compared to other types of cameras, the viewfinder on an SLR is bright, clear, and easy to use. And that's very important because the viewfinder on an SLR is usually the only way to see what you're shooting. Unlike point-and-shoot cameras where you can use the LCD to compose your picture, most SLRs do not have a live display mode for the LCD. But believe it or not, that's actually a good thing. Even if your camera is one of those models that can show a live picture on the LCD, I'm going to suggest that you don't use it that way. Holding an SLR properly may take some getting used to if this is how you're accustomed to holding a digital camera. But believe me, once you've gotten used to using a real SLR viewfinder, you'll never want to go back to using an LCD again. Now, the professional way to hold your camera is like this, with the camera resting against your forehead or eyebrow, your left hand cradling the camera and supporting most of the weight, and your right hand on this side to steady the camera, manipulate the controls with your fingertips, and of course, to press the shutter button. An even better option for steady shooting is to use a tripod whenever it's practical. I prefer to shoot with a tripod most of the time, and it's not just because it steadies the camera. There's something about it that forces me to stop and think about my camera settings, my composition, and what I'm trying to accomplish with the picture that I'm about to take. When I use a tripod, I find myself taking fewer pictures, but those pictures are generally my best work. Try using a tripod even when you don't really have to. I think you'll see what I mean. And that brings up another point. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that the more pictures you take, the more likely you are to get some good ones. It doesn't work like that. I call that the machine gun approach. Just because your camera can fire off several pictures a second and your memory card may be capable of storing 500 photos at a time, that doesn't mean that you're going to improve your odds of getting any good ones. Instead, I suggest that you approach your photography as if you are a highly skilled marksman with a limited amount of ammunition. Take your time, think about your shot, and instead of taking 500 mediocre snapshots, you're more likely to take some great pictures that you'll actually be proud of.